Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is a special edition where our focus is on the IPO of the company that's open today, and that's TBO Tech. It's kicked off for subscription today, that's May 8th, and will be open for subscription for investors until Friday, that's May 10th. This is a 1550 odd crore rupees IPO of TBO Tech that includes a fresh issue of shares of 400 crores and an offer for sale of about 1150 odd crore rupees. The company is offering its shares in the range of 875 to 920 rupees per share, and also investors here can bid for a minimum of 16 equity shares and then in multiples thereof. Remember, the company has already raised 696.5 crores via its anchor book as well. What is the company all about? Well, TBO Tech, it was formerly known as Tech Travels. It's a travel distribution platform that offers travel inventory according to the needs of its customers and supports a wide range of currencies along with the forex help as well. Now, joining in to help us understand more about this business as well as the vision of the company going forward, I'm now joined by the top management of the company. Mr. Ankush Nijaman joins in. He's the co-founder and the joint managing director of TBO Tech, and also Gaurav Bhatnagar joins in. He's the co-founder and joint managing director of TBO Tech as well. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. Well, Ankush, let me kickstart by understanding from you more about the company specific per se. We've understood that you simplify the travel business for suppliers such as hotels, airlines, car rentals. But what exactly is your business model all about for our viewers to understand a little bit more, because it's a very unique company?
Thank you, Sakshi, first of all, inviting both of us. So, Sakshi, I think you made my life easier by starting by saying we simplify travel, but I would like to talk a little more. So, we operate in the outbound space, and that means that people living in their own country and traveling overseas. 1.5 billion trips outbound happen in the world in last year, which is literally like the population of India. And that is what we are operating in that margin, a market where we are actually aggregating supply, which is the hotels and the airlines, and the demand, which is the primarily the travel agents and the tour operators. This market obviously is growing, and we will continue to grow as we move forward in the next years, and that's where we operate in this outbound space of travel space.
Okay. Okay, understood. But Ankush, is there any other competitor like you? Do you have a peer which is listed on the exchanges, or you're the first one to list on the Indian stock exchanges with this kind of a business model?
I think the pair, what we would like to talk about is WebJets, as a company called WebBets, who operates like a model like ours. It's
Okay.
listed. It's an international player, Australian-based. So I would like to, peg ourselves with WebJets.
Okay, understood. Now, Gaurav, let me bring you in the conversation. Let's talk about the IPO size, 1550 odd crore rupees. Within that, just 400 crore rupees is the fresh issue size. What are you going to be using this proceeds for?
So, Sakshi, look, we are a platform business, so our growth is largely dependent on increasing our buyer base. In our case, it is travel agents across the globe, right? So we operate in more than 100 countries. In fact, 70% of our revenue is generated outside of India. So increasing the market penetration across the 5 continents is a significant investment for us. On the other hand of the spectrum, on the other side of the platform is the supplier base, right? So continuing to add more supply. What that means is more hotels, better rates with those hotels, but also new kinds of products, right? So beyond hotels, the consumer demand is maturing. People want to book car rentals. People are doing cruise. They want to book their Europe rail. So multiple new products as well on the platform, which requires a fair bit of investment. The third bit is the platform itself. Ultimately, we are a tech business. It's an internet business. So we need to continue to improve the platform. So data tech plays a very critical role. So significant investment goes into tech. And the final bit is, the industry is very large and fragmented. So we've been a bit acquisitive. Last 5 years, we've done 4 acquisitions. So we'll continue to look for other opportunities as well in India or outside of India.
Okay, got that. Now, Gaurav, just like how both you and Ankush have been explaining to us what exactly is the business all about, we do know that the travel and the tourism industry is looking up like never before, with, of course, the government really looking at, creating promising avenues for tourists to come into India, and, of course, facilitating and, of course, rising per capita income in India and the rising aspirations of all Indians to travel abroad as well and to newer destinations that are all open like probably never before, what we've seen as a change post-COVID. How do you really see the opportunity for a player like you over the next 5 to 10 years? Gaurav, starting with you, then I'll come to Ankush.
Okay. No, look, I think outbound travel is a huge phenomenon. It has accelerated post-COVID, and what's really happening is that countries, emerging markets like India, have this unique opportunity that we're a young but starting to get prosperous population, which means our aspirations are changing, and we want to spend more on travel. One behavior change that has happened is if travel used to be an annual exercise, now you're planning for the next long weekend or for the next summer at the end of winter itself. Combine that with the fact that number of aircrafts that the airlines, Indigo and Air India, have ordered, and so a lot of those are wide-bodied aircrafts. What that means is we will have a lot more connectivity to the rest of the world going forward. So we see huge opportunity within India. We also see some global opportunities because the West is very different from India. The West is much older but much more prosperous. So the 55 plus demographic in the US, UK, Germany, Western Europe, their travel preferences are extremely complex, right? They don't do those long weekends only. They're doing 2-3 weeks, right, of travel with so many other components added. So they're looking for comfort, convenience, novelty, and they're going to travel agents as well. So we see growth coming from these two elements: the first-time traveler in the developing, emerging world, and the very, very developed, well-heeled traveler in the West.
Okay, Ankush, if you could add on to that as well and also help us understand. So, for an average Indian investor who looks out to plan their next vacation in India or abroad, the first step that they do is to look for any packages online and to see if there are any comparative packages coming in. Where do you step in, and how do you really participate that in that process, and how do you make money in that?
So what we are actually helping the travel agent is actually discovery. Because now I'll just put an example. If you're traveling for Iceland, how do I actually discover what should I do at Iceland? That is something which is one of the problems we are solving. Second is trust. Who's the other side we are dealing with? Whether it's a ground supplier or a sightseeing transfer operator, etc. How do we settle the payments, right? I think that's something which is a cumbersome process, and that's something which we help the travel agent, which obviously helps the end traveler. And service. We operate in almost all languages spoken in India. Even overseas, we operate in about 11 languages. Our portal is in 11 languages. Because I think discovery, trust, service, and payments is something which we are helping the travel agent with a plethora of inventory for hotels and air, which we bring them real time so that they can actually serve the customer better and obviously make their experience more meaningful in their travel plans.
Okay, fair enough. Coming to a little bit of financials, Gaurav, if you could highlight for us, we do know that, in the 9 months ended March 31st of 2023, the company has reported a profit of 154 odd crore rupees, the revenue of 1039 odd crore rupees. And if you could help us understand, how do you see the financials panning out, and for FY25, FY26, for the next 2 or 3 years, how do you really see the outlook?
So, Sakshi, obviously we can't give specific numbers or any guidance on the numbers. I can just talk about how we think of growth and how we think of margin expansion. So the business operates in a very large space. Our global travel outbound spend is almost $2 trillion. And if you look at our numbers, we're doing something more like $3 billion out of the $2 trillion, right? So the headroom for growth is massive. And important to keep in mind, we operate on the global stage, which means while we will ride on the India outbound story, we also ride on the global outbound story, right? So if travel increases in Brazil or travel increases in Indonesia, all of that benefits us. The second bit to keep in mind is it's a platform business, so there is strong operating leverage. And you would have seen in the last 3 years, our EBITDA margins have been expanding every year. And which really happens because once you have a travel agent on the platform, and every subsequent year, as they do more business with us, because it's all on the internet, incremental revenue disproportionately can fall to the bottom line, right? So our growth plan, the strategy is around market expansion, add more buyers, add more suppliers, and then expand margins through operating leverage.
Okay, if Ankush, you could add on to that, how are you looking at the margins? What really contributes in your segmental revenue division most to the margins, and how would you be going forward in FY25?
So the two, revenue for us is primarily air and hotels. And typically for us, it's a commissionable model in the airline business. We get a take rate and commission for 2.6%, and our gross profit is 1.3%, what we keep. The rest is parted back to our travel operators. And on the hotel, it's a little different. We get a net rate from the hotel, which we typically market up by 8%. So that's our take rate, and our gross profit is 5.5. And I think we wish to maintain the same as we move forward into next year.
Okay, but Ankush, do you see high competitive intensity in this space as well? And do you also see a risk that, your network partners could probably be looking at better pricing at all stages? And how do you deal with that competitive intensity that time?
So I think for us, keep adding demand, which will help supply, right, further, for us to negotiate better pricing, which we can obviously pass on to our travel agents. I think our EBITDA expansion will happen through the operating leverages, which Gaurav just mentioned, and I think that's going to be our theme. Leave the money on the table for our travel operators and, increase our EBITDA by the operating leverages rather than increasing our margins then.
Okay. Gaurav, now as far as scaling up your business is concerned, how do you see things panning out for you? What are the levers for you to scale up this business further? Where exactly would you be looking at market expansion like you alluded to earlier?
So actually very important element of a business is network effects. You will see that historically our GTV or our revenue grows faster than our buyer growth. So, for example, and this we've shared in our prospectus as well, over a 3-year period, if our active buyers, active number of travel agents on the platform grew by 37%, the number of transactions on the platform grew by 74%. And why this happens is because there is a buyer supplier network effect. You add more and more hotel supply on the platform, your existing travel agents become more productive. And likewise, you add more travel agents on the platform, your existing hotels become more productive. So the way we plan our growth is that how do we keep adding more travel agents on the platform and how do we make them more productive? How do we make them more productive is by adding more hotels. So it's pretty straightforward. At least on paper, it is very straightforward. Obviously, to execute has its own challenges. But the biggest lever in our business is that our GTV or our sales grows faster than our buyer growth. So as long as we are continuously adding more active travel agents on the platform, we believe the business should continue to grow on top line. And because of the operating leverage, the bottom line hopefully grows faster than the top line.
Okay. Ankush, for going forward from here for your expansions, how is the cash on the books? What is your debt position? And would you be looking at, since you also talked about the acquisition part earlier, would you be looking at raising any funds going forward for such acquisitions?
So I think on the cash, I think it's all there in our prospectus, for the viewers to have a look. For debt, we just took some very small debt early this year, for the acquisition, what we did overseas. And currently, we are raising some of the, primary, which might be used for the acquisition, which is something which we will use in our next future plans.
Okay. Gaurav, could you also highlight for us how will the shareholding pattern also change after the listing? Since you already have an OFS, what will be the shareholding of the promoters, and are promoters participating in this OFS?
Yeah, so Sakshi, there is a 5% dilution between the promoters, which is Ankush and myself. Beyond that, most of the OFSs are investors, Affirma Capital. And just a small clarification there, because it's causing a little bit of confusion, so I should mention it over here. On the cap table, you see two selling shareholders, TBO Korea and Augusta TBO. While their names have TBO in it, it is the investment vehicle for Affirma Capital, right? So that is not the promoter group at all. Right, what you see as, so that's not the promoter group, which is causing some confusion that our promoters selling a lot. So after the listing is done, after the OFS, the promoter group will still hold almost between 44 and 45% equity, which is, I think, significant skin in the game.
Okay, understood. And in this IPO, you're also reserving some shares for eligible employees as well. Are you also extending any discounts for them?
We aren't extending any discount for employees, but yes, we have a pool of 3 crores, which is being given to the employees.
Okay, right. Now, going forward from here, how do you see, looking at the levers that you've pointed out, what will work in your favor in FY25? What are the tailwinds and what are the challenges? Ankush.
I think overall tailwinds across the world, I think, Sakshi, everybody wants to travel. I think that's the new phenomena which has now kicked in, especially in younger and emerging economies like India and Asia and Brazil, for example. I think challenges for us is just execution to the expectation of what we have, right? Because as based in India, building a global company, can have their own nuances, which we got to be more careful about. But I think overall for us, the risk is more on things which are not in control, such as geopolitical situation and climate issues, etc.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Ankush and Gaurav, for sharing with us all these insights from the IPO, and all the very best to you. We've already seen the retail portion get fully subscribed on day one, just within few hours of opening. So there is a huge demand that we are seeing already on day one, and hope you get substantial listing gains as well. And for your investors too, all the very best. And we shall hope to catch up again to understand more about how do you want to steer the company going forward from here. Truly a pleasure to host you.
Likewise.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sakshi.
Sakshi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ankush and Gaurav. And with that, viewers, we wrap up this very special conversation on TBO Tech, the new IPO that's opened on the street today. Do stay tuned on to Business Today, as we will continue to get you even our experts' views on this IPO as to whether you must also look at exploring this IPO for your portfolio as well. Many thanks for joining us onto this special edition.
Your views on IT and anything that catches your